to part 4 of this video series. In this section, what we're going to explore is how we're going to make him switch weapons and the smooth animation that goes in between. I'm saying smooth, but we're going to go with what we got. So to start, let's give him a new blend space, because this one that we have is for the short sword and shield. So we're going to go animation, blend space 1D, pick the paladin and make warrior underscore blend space G for greatsword. Now in here I'll type in idle and get the greatsword idle, and then I'll type in walk and get the greatsword walk. Since he's moving and not staying in position, you double click, enable root motion, and in first frame. There. Now that we have that, let's go into his animation blueprint. Now what we need to do is make a loop. This is the original run, so we need a new one. We'll call it run G for the greatsword. Sorry, there's background noise. Okay. Here in the asset browser, I'll type in blend, and I got here blend space G. That's for his greatsword. And then I need to plug in the speed variable here. So I get the speed variable and drop it there. Then we're going to do something that's going to be pretty redundant. We're going to have a bunch of states up here and down there, and we're going to connect them all together. And then we're going to fill in the transition methods. So I'll add state, and I'll call this one sheath sword. And I'll make one, call it draw greatsword. What I need to do is take both of these, copy and paste, because I need 2 of these sequences, because our animation for drawing and sheathing are divided into 2. You have more control over animations when they're split up into 2, but it just makes it a bit longer to work with them. Now, and I need more. I need to type in draw sword, and I need to type in here another state machine. I need sheath greatsword. I take both of them and I'm going to copy and paste them again. And what I'll do is I'm going to connect all of these together, and then we're going to fill in the in-betweens. So those little things that are appearing, connect all these together. This way we're going to have a whole loop. So what's going to happen is from this sword and shield mode, he's going to play all this animation and go into the next run, the next blend space, sorry. And then when you switch again, he's going to play all this series of animation and go back to his regular one. So in blueprint here, I'll make a new variable, and I'll call it greatsword underscore on. So when it's on, you begin to switch, and when it's off, you begin to switch from the greatsword stance. Type in not and plug that in. Okay, we got that far. So now here in sheath sword, in asset browser, I'm going to type in sheath, and I have sword 1 and sword 2. So I'll plug this in, and it's very important to remove this. So uncheck this, because when the animation is done, it'll right away loop again, so you don't want that. So this we got. Now we need to go for the next one, sheath sword. Take out the pin here, checkbox, sorry, and then sheath greatswords. We'll plug those into. So sheath greatsword right here. Uncheck. Go to the next one. It's important you name these properly, but for the sake of time and tutorial, I'm just gonna leave it junky like that. Then I'm gonna type in draw greatsword 1. Uncheck. Connect this together. Get draw greatsword 2. Uncheck, and I'm going to do the same thing for here, draw sword. So draw sword 1, uncheck, and draw sword 2. Uncheck that and connect it. So this one and this one were pretty easy to do. Now all of these that we didn't do are kind of the same. What you need is a ratio. You gotta type in ratio on each one of them, but this little segment here you can copy paste. So here you type in 0.1 This is float smaller than or equal to. So we're going to go to locomotion and do that for all of them. Type in ratio, paste that. This is done. Okay, next. Ratio again. Same thing here. Oh, wrong one. I'm going too fast. This one we don't need to touch. This one we gotta. So ratio again. Once this part is done, I'm gonna test it out and see if it's bugging out anywhere, and I'll show you why we had to remove the pins. It's pretty annoying. Well, I mean, the result is pretty annoying. It starts to twitch. Okay, this one's done. Next one. That's the last one. Okay, so we got all this covered. I'll compile and see if there's any warnings or errors. Okay, it's all good. So now we're gonna go GreatSword on. Puts the sword away. Takes the GreatSword out. And now if I increase his speed, he starts to walk. And if I uncheck this, boom, there you go. Now we're gonna make a button that when you press it, he's gonna start to switch modes. So he's gonna go from his GreatSword to short sword and vice versa. What we need is, we need to go to our warrior blueprint, and we need to make a variable here. I'll call it switch mode, and I'll click the little eyeball. And then this one I'll call it switching, and I'll show you when we're gonna use that. So right click, I'll press R. The input, you can make it whatever. I'm just gonna make it R for now, but maybe after I'll change it. Or maybe right mouse button. Let's try with that. Right mouse button. Okay. So I'll type in flip flop. Put a branch. And connect pressed with it. Now switching. If it's false, you carry on. What this is going to do is going to toggle switch mode on and off. Okay, and what else we're going to need is two custom events. These will be triggered by animation notifies we're going to tech after. So I'm going to call this switching on. Copy paste that, and I'll call it switching off. Then here in switching, a lot of switching, so copy paste that, this one on, the other one off. So at the press of the right mouse button, he checks, is switching in progress? No. Then you continue on, and he goes to A, and he checks this. If I pressed it again, it would check, am I switching? Switching meaning I'm playing the animation, because I shouldn't be able to toggle it on and off during the animation, only when it's done. So here I'm going to comment this and call it switching modes. If you find that confusing at any time, write a comment and I'll reply to that. Now here what I need is, since I turned this on, the little eyeball, I can call it on this side in the animation blueprint. So I'm going to say cast to character. I'll connect the execution inputs here, the white wires, and as character, cast to warrior BP. And in this, have GreatSword on, and I'll set it, and I'll go get switching mode. Oh, there we go. Just type mode, get switching mode. Have to compile that. There we go. So by right click, I should be able to switch my weapons. Let's try it out. There you go. His blend space changed too. What's missing now is toggling the weapons on and off and stopping him from moving during the switching. And a little bit of fine tuning. I'm gonna get to that in the next segment. Now in this segment, we're gonna time the visibility of the weapons so they turn on and off. To start, what we're gonna need is we go into the animations, and I'm gonna type in draw. So right here, just when his hand is about to lift off, we're gonna make a notify that sends a signal that the sword in the back should go invisible and the sword in his hand, the greatsword, sorry, in his hand, should go visible. So I'll say new notify, and I'll call this draw GS for greatsword. So once he's done drawing it, bam, here we can add another notify that's gonna say now you're done switching. So I'll call it switch off. We're gonna need this after, you'll see. I'm gonna go into draw sword, and right here it's gonna say, it's gonna go tell the, what's it called, the warrior blueprint, that the sword in his hand should be visible and the sword on his side, on his hip, should be invisible. So here I'm going to call it draw sword. Boom, and when that's done, I'm going to call that event notify that I made for switch off, that he's done switching, and now you can go back to switching into your other mode if you wanted. We're going to work on that a bit after. Here I'll write in sheath. So for sheathing, when he's putting it away, look at that wrist break. So what's supposed to happen here is the greatsword in his hand is visible, and once he puts it back, the one in his hand goes invisible and the one in his back appears. So I'm going to do that in sheath the greatsword 2 clip around here. Say add notify, and I'll call this sheath GS for greatsword. And I'm going to do the same thing for sheath sword. Right here. So here the sword in his hand should go invisible and the one on his hip should go visible. Now in the animation graph, I'm going to call the anim notifies that I just made. So to start off with his mode switching, I know that when he sheaths the sword, he's going to draw the greatsword. And when he sheaths the greatsword, he's going to draw the sword. So I'll leave them in that order right now. I'm going to go make some custom events in the warrior blueprint. So the first custom event, I'll call it sheath sword. I'm going to copy and paste that, and I'm going to call it draw GS for greatsword. I'll copy paste these two events, and here I'm going to turn this into sheath greatsword and draw sword. There's something else I know we're going to need. Go into the viewport, and I checked his animation. The hand with the shield kind of stays close to his left leg. So what I'll do is, right where I have sheath, I'll duplicate that, and I'll call it shield off. I know my names aren't super cool, so I'll zero all this out. And I'm going to go check the size of his shield. It's at 7 times. Oh. So here in the socket, I'll put it to sheath. And here I'm going to type in shield. Oops. I'm going to type in shield right here. Now that I have that, I'll put it to 7. Just going to turn off his animation. Go to asset, and I'm going to position this shield correctly. put it to the side of his hip. Even though it won't make too much sense, but here I'm gonna go into hidden in game. Perfect. Now going back to his event graph, I'm gonna take shield off. Don't need that. GreatSword on, sheath, GreatSword, shield, and sword. These are all the weapons that are on our mesh right now. So sword and sheath, I'm gonna put them side by side, and I'm also gonna take shield and put shield off side by side, and GreatSword and GreatSword on side by side. Now we're gonna connect a lot of wires together. Type in set hidden in game, copy paste that. This is the hidden column and this is the show column. So what I'll do is I'm gonna copy paste this a few more times. And then I'm gonna comment all these guys. Call this hide. Call this show. And I'm just gonna color these comments here. There we go. Oh wow, you can color the bubble. Okay. So when I'm sheathing the sword, I'm gonna connect all these pins together first, because each of these events is gonna launch hidden and show. Basically it's gonna hide and show things. So when I'm sheathing the sword, I know I need to hide the sword and I need to show the one that's sheathed. I don't know if that's a word, I keep saying it. Okay, well, what else I need to do is I need to take the shield in my hand and I need to hide it, and I need to take the shield on the side and I need to show it. Okay, so we have this done. Now what happens when I draw the GreatSword? When I draw it, well, the GreatSword on my back is hidden and the GreatSword in my hand is displayed. Now when I sheath the GreatSword, what happens is the GreatSword in my hand hides and the one on my back shows. And when I'm drawing the sword, the shield on the side of my hip is hidden, the sheath on the side of my hip is hidden, and the sword and the shield that are in my hand are displayed. Okay, so this is in my hand, this is in my hand, this and this are on my hips, and this is in my hand, this is on my back. I keep saying my, but on my character, if you know what I mean. So now we're going to connect these anim notifies in the animation blueprint. So I'm going to go to this warrior BP node here, drag that out, type draw, and I'm going to call all the custom events that I just made. So when I sheath the sword, I'll connect it to the event of the same name. When I draw the GreatSword, I'll connect it here. When I draw the sword, I'll connect this event together here. And when I sheath the GreatSword, I'll connect it to this one right here, sheath the GreatSword. And I can put these on the side and toggle weapon visibility. Oh, something went wrong. Probably because I didn't compile. That's exactly it. Okay, let me test that out and see where the issues are in this. There's the first issue. No animation blueprint because I turned it off. So let me turn that back on. There. So there's my guy. And now I can right click. Oh, how's that? Smooth. Put the GreatSword back. Oh, he swings it too. Pretty cool, huh? But notice that I can still move while he's doing that. And I can pretty much keep clicking a bunch of times and he's going to keep switching on and off. So that's what we're gonna fix now. Okay, so to fix it, let me go into my warrior blueprint, event graph. I'm gonna comment all this and toggle weapon is. I need to call these events now. So when switching is on, this thing should go on immediately, but when it's off, we can put a bit of a trigger delay. So after a few, this is like a cooldown. After a few seconds, you can switch again. So we'll put it 2 seconds. Here. Now we're gonna go to the animation blueprint, and we're gonna call those 2 events out. It was switching off and on. Switching on. There we go. And I also made 2 notifies. They were switching, switch on and off too. Oh boy. Where did it go? Now I'm wondering if I even made them. Let's go check. Yeah, switch off. One word. There we go. Switch on. Did I make this one? Looks like I didn't. Switch off. Switch off. Oh, right. I don't think I did. No, I didn't. So this is, as soon as you sheath something, you're starting the switch. So sheath right here. This means you're starting the switch. But we need to do it for these. This is the start of his animation for sheathing a greatsword, so we need to turn switching on here. Switch on. And do the same thing for sheath sword 1. Switch on. Okay, I didn't make it twice. I zoned out for a bit. Okay, back to his animation blueprint. Switch on. Now we're going to connect these to the right ones. And I'm going to test that out. Now I'm clicking. Let's see if he's going to switch back. Nope, he didn't. Now I can switch again because of the delay. We have a 2-second delay. There, he's switching again. Now I need to stop him from moving. So when the switch is on, he shouldn't be able to move. But the moment the switch is off, he should be able to walk again. So to clear that up, what we're going to do is get character movement and set max walk speed. Now I'm just going to check my character's walk speed because I can't remember it from the top of my head. And it's not there. Oh, wait. There we go. So it's 600. So here, I'll put 1 to, let's say, 250. Maybe that's too fast or too slow, I don't know. But I'll check after. Now I know when he's in greatsword mode, he should be pretty damn slow, and when he's in sword and shield mode, he should be a bit faster. Now I also need to make another one of these and put it to 0. Oh, gotta connect these. Okay. So when switching is on, your speed is set to 0, so you shouldn't be able to move at all. And once you have switched into your greatsword mode or your sword mode, we're going to connect these into the proper areas. So draw greatsword. Oh, we can put it. We'll make a branch. Connect both of these into this. So the branch is gonna say which mode he's on. And we'll make a new Boolean variable, and we're gonna call that we'll call it GreatSword mode. If it's true, your speed is 250. If it's false, well, that means you're in your short sword and shield mode, so your speed's gonna boost up to 600. And the way we're gonna toggle this on and off is gonna be right here at the end of these, and then we can switch the timings up after. Put a delay. So let's set that up. Draw GreatSword right here. GreatSword mode is on. And then draw sword. GreatSword mode is off. I'm gonna test that out quickly and see where it needs modifications. Now I can't move. I'm still holding W. There, now I can move. I can't move right now. I'm holding W. There, now I can move. So that worked out pretty well. So we have him switching weapons. Now what's missing is we need to left click and attack with this stuff. So I'm probably going to start to cover that in the next video, but I'll just double check to make sure there's not anything else that we can do before jumping into the attack combo system. Because that stuff is, there's just a lot of nodes involved in that one. And a lot of balancing out. There's a lot of things in general with it. So now that I have this part done, I'm going to stop the video here. Thank you for watching, and I'm going to see you in the next one. So we're going to have fun making this hack and slash game.